Learn more in 3 hours than 4 years at a woke university. And it's free. Yahoo! The Charlie Kirk Show.
Now, I want to talk to you about one of our great partners. You've heard about them before, but some of you guys have private student loan debt, and that's not good. And you guys got to get out of private student loan debt by going to YRefi. Now, YRefi, they help you refinance distressed or defaulted private student loans that others simply will not touch. You can take control of your monthly budget, and so many Americans feel stuck and helpless. Can you imagine being debt-free and not living under this burden anymore? Go to YRefi.com. You can even skip a payment every 6 months, up to 12 times that penalty. Just call 888-YRefi34 or log on to YRefi.com. That is YREFY.com. It may not be available in all 50 states. Bad credit is accepted, but YRefi offers a 3-minute rate check without any credit impact. Can you imagine being debt-free and getting out of debt? We'll go to YRefi.com. That is YRefi.com. Back with more from Frank Turek. Remember to become a member today at members.charliekirk.com to watch all of our interviews like this and even join our weekly members calls. If you join now, you can be a part of our call tomorrow. Watch this.
So if you're in a slave situation, and Paul says try to get out of it if you can, but if you're in a slave situation,
He does say that.
Yes, you ought to do right by the person you're dealing with. In fact, Peter says this. He says, what good is it if you treat people well who treat you well? Even the pagans do that. He said, but you should treat people who don't treat you well.
Yes.
It's better to suffer evil than to do evil.
So they also say in slavery, and then this is a moral pomposity, kind of, they say that if the Bible is perfect, like, why didn't it explicitly say we got to get rid of this thing?
Well, it did, but in a way that wouldn't have crushed it at its initiation. Because if the Christian church had all these commands for the people at the time to overthrow the Roman government, they would have completely crushed the Christian church. So what they said was, you can't kidnap anybody, that everybody, regardless of their social position, is an equal, that
they get a Sabbath.
They get a Sabbath. They have rights. If you hurt a slave, they go free. If you kill a slave, you're going to be punished. So the slaves weren't property, although when you read in the Old Testament, you'll hear them referred to as property. What that meant was they were money. It's equivalent today to say, well, let me ask you this. Can the owner of the Golden State Warriors sell Steph Curry?
Yes.
Yes, he can, because he owns the basketball services of Steph Curry.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, but he can't sell Steph Curry as a person.
Yeah.
He can. Steph Curry is under contract.
Yep.
The services. This is the language that was used in the Bible. It wasn't the kind of language that chattel slavery used. It was the kind of language that we might relate to a sports team, a sports owner. You own the services of Steph Curry, but you don't own him as a person.
So on the slavery question, then, they would also say, why are there so many laws that make it seem like it's okay, that doesn't forbid it?
Because it's case law, just like we have in the United States, where it'll say in the Old Testament, if a man hits his slave and causes damage, then there'll be a penalty to the man. But that case law isn't prescribing that you hit your slave. Mm-hmm. It's describing what you should do if someone hits their slave. Much like we have laws today. If somebody breaks into a house and steals something, what should you do to them? It's not prescribing breaking into houses and stealing. It's telling you what to do when somebody does evil.
And so slavery comes up a lot, the Canaanites.
Sure.
So how do you answer, by the way, this is part of the work that we were going to do today anyways, this is great. How do you answer when someone says, but the Bible and I believe I have an answer to this, but you're much crisper than I am. The Bible told the people of Israel at the time to wipe out, to kill women, maybe, right?
Sure, yeah, women, children, the animals, the whole deal.
What kind of a God would tell a people to, I don't want to say genocide, but to wipe out an enemy?
Okay, first thing I'm going to ask people who bring up any moral objection is, by what moral standard are you using to say this is wrong?
Right.
Because if they're atheists, they don't have an objective moral standard. Sure. But it's a fair question to ask of a Christian. You're saying your God is good and he does these, what?
So they would say, they would say, my view, I don't know what I believe, but I want to know how you could be consistent.
Sure.
Which would actually be a fair question.
It's a totally fair question, and it's a good question. It's something that should give us pause. And I think that skeptics of the Bible bring this up, rightfully so. You should be able to deal with this issue.
Yep.
Okay? There are two views on this, two major views on it. One is these were literal commands to wipe everybody out. The second view is that these were hyperbolic commands. This is the way the ancient Near East people spoke. For example, if you go to Egypt, where we just were about 6 months ago, there's something called the Merneptah stela. Pharaoh Merneptah, on this stela, this standing stone with all sorts of inscriptions, says, Israel has been laid waste. Its seed is no more. In other words, it's basically saying, I, Pharaoh Merneptah, wiped out Israel off the face of the earth. Really? How come they're still there? It's exaggerated language, much like we would say in sports. We obliterated.
We crushed
We
them.
annihilated.
We killed them.
We killed the Bears, as we always do, right? Okay.
Or that as a Gen Z would say, like, I'm dead.
That's right. Yeah. And why do we think this is the case? Not only are there parallels in other ancient Near East documents. If you go to, say, Deuteronomy 7, it'll say this: wipe everybody out. Next verse says, and then don't intermarry with them. And you're going, wait a minute. How could you intermarry with a group of people you had just wiped out? And then, by the way, a couple chapters later, we see these people still around. Because it's hyperbolic language. And why is this being used? Why is this being done to begin with? This is judgment.